Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here from Team Wilpers. Excited as always to welcome you to our Week 3 athlete briefing for our spring run, as well as our half marathon extension program. We're going to start, per usual, with our Week 2 review. For the spring run group, started the week with that threshold run. So that's the first workout of that nature during this challenge here. This, in combination with the VO2 max work, are going to be the main contributing energy zone factors which we're targeting here in this program. Our second key run of the week was that VO2 max workout, expanding the time there, working that zone 5. Really great work for especially that 5K-ish style of running that we're going to start to see a lot of here as we come into the early summertime. Half marathoners had that endurance run to start the week, getting that volume back up near peak. This is where all runners, whether you're racing or not, start to come back together again. And workout number 2 was that hill repeat work. Working extended duration intervals here, building the muscular endurance that we need for more of a sustained hill climb, which is coming for a lot of people in the spring race season here. Per usual, everyone finished the week together with a nice, easy, long run. I like to say, best run of the week. Week 3 workouts here. So we're going to start with spring run crew. So kind of across the board here, our whole week objective is we're going to take one full step up where we were a week ago here in week 2. So the threshold run, we have slightly longer intervals with more overall time at zone. The VO2 max work is really going to be the same thing there. It's going to be lengthier intervals, more time total of time kind of spent at that VO2 max energy zone. So just one full step up. Half marathoners. We're doing more substantial endurance work to start the week. We're coming into our kind of final stretch here. So we want to keep pushing volume, want to stay really focused, also keep the paces nice and relaxed there, continuing to push the endurance. Key run number 2 is going to be a progressive interval workout. So a couple main goals here that we want to achieve in this progressive interval workout. The first is that it ends up getting a lot of really quality time at both sub-threshold and threshold energy zones. So a lot of Z3, a lot of Z4 time. So really focused, good kind of tempo work, if you will, right there. So workout also has a lot of variation. So it's a great opportunity to practice finding your paces, coming in and out of them, finding the little discrepancies of what's the difference between marathon and half marathon and what feels comfortable and what feels uncomfortable. You're gonna have 3 kind of opportunities usually to go through this, kind of practice finding the pace, practice holding the pace, practice advancing the pace. So hopefully you'll not only have a lot of kind of some fun trying to move in and out of those pace ranges, but do a lot of learning as we get here close to that half marathon race day. And as I was saying, it kind of ends up being a very dynamic workout. So hopefully you really enjoy this one. Always one I look forward to. Finishing the week, once again, with the long run for everybody. Our half marathoners are at 10 to 12 miles this week. So it's going to be the peak mileage of our half marathon extension. So a lot of people have already hit this mileage in the past in the normal half marathon program. Have been carrying it through, but this is going to be our peak mileage here in the extension. So much as it was during the build-up for the March halves, I like to call this our kind of dress rehearsal weekend, if you will. So you want to practice your race kit. You want to practice your pre-run breakfast. You want to practice your intra-work nutrition plan, etc. As best as you can mimic your race day conditions on this workout, the better, without the actual race to go along with it. So once again, make sure to keep it nice and easy. If all goes well here, this is what I like to call a confidence run, that you walk away feeling really fit and confident with your race 2 weeks out. So let's jump into a few questions that have come up here from the group. And the first was how to train for the hot weather when there is no hot weather to be found. So this absolutely should be a consideration for people racing in April and May for a Nashville half marathon group that's going down there. Most of us have not been training in conditions that are 60, 70 degrees pretty consistently. Here in New York City today, it was 40 degrees this morning, beautiful, perfect running, 40 degrees. But so 60 degrees, even a big jump, 70 is even bigger jump. So some of the things you can do to start to prepare for, and we started talking about this a few weeks ago, is if you're trying to acclimate or start to get used to warmer temperatures, you can kind of add a layer. That's kind of the easiest thing. You can do it inside, you can do it outside. In essence, what the warmer temperatures are doing is just gonna kind of warm your core temperature in general. You're not gonna be able to cool as effectively. So adding that layer can help that stimulus in training if you are trying to get ready for a hot weather race. The other thing you can do is if you've got an indoor setup and running on the treadmill, is you could certainly try to add a layer inside. So once again, just a garment choice, maybe add sleeves on, make yourself just a little bit warmer than you would have been. I don't know if you're like me, when I'm running inside, I have a big fan blasting on me the whole time, turn the AC down to make it a little bit more comfortable for myself. When trying to get ready for warmer races or the warm race season, I kind of do the exact opposite. Turn the fan off, kind of leave the heat or the heater AC set in the 70s, close the door to the room I work out in, so it starts to actually feel a little bit more like a hot, steamy condition. Not a ton of fun, I must admit, but once again, if you're preparing for what could be a hot weather race and are trying to acclimate a little bit, these are a couple strategies there. I think very important for everyone to remember though, is it takes 2 to 3 weeks really to start getting the benefit of any of that heat acclimation. So if it's something you're interested in working on and getting ready to race in a warmer climate, make sure that you're doing, I would say 2 to 3 sessions a week for a few weeks leading into the race, so that your body actually has a chance to make those adaptations, get you a little bit more prepared for that race day. And then finally, anytime you're coming into warmer conditions, and if it was just say 70 degrees is quite a bit above the kind of ideal race temp condition. You have to start just adjusting your race strategy a little bit, kind of your plan for that day. The kind of agreed upon rule of thumb is around 50 degrees ideal running weather. Everything above is a little deviation from ideal, so just keep that in mind. Our kind of next question here was, how does one not freak out after looking at the next week's VO2 max and seeing an extra minute per interval, asking for so many friends? So I think important to just kind of frame this here is that these VO2 max workouts, the VO2 max energy zone is really a pace that you should be able to hold for, say 12 to 15 minutes of total time. So it certainly can feel, start to get difficult at a minute, starts to sting a little bit at 2 minutes, but really it's something that you can continue to hold for a relatively lengthy period of time. So even as we get into these 3-minute intervals, these aren't designed to push you way outside of your comfort zone. They're designed to challenge you and push you for sure, but to be absolutely achievable. So in this kind of 8-week progression we have here, we're actually going to get up to about a maximum of a 4-minute interval in those VO2 max sets. So in a way, as we get to this 3-minute interval here, you can kind of know that the end is in sight. It doesn't just progress never ending until we get up to 10 to 15 minutes. We'll stop at that 4-minute mark. But just remember, it's certainly designed to push you and be in an energy zone that feels uncomfortable, but it's also based upon your test result, really designed to be something that you can achieve over and over again over the course of this challenge. And not for nothing, I have talked about some of the pros and cons of this 20-minute test over the course of time. The 20-minute test is really well designed to hone in and give you pretty accurate pace guidance here in this VO2 max energy zone in particular, where sometimes it deviates a bit for some other paces. So based on your real life performance, these should be workouts that you can handle no problem, which doesn't mean they feel easy. As a matter of fact, they will feel hard. Next was, how does one adjust training for Trail Utah Moab race in November when living in flat sea level Connecticut? And great question, super fun one. One that I spent a lot of time working with. Had an athlete from Indiana running the Leadville 100 last year, and it was a lot of study that went into this exact topic. And so to kind of break it down in its kind of simplest form, there are kind of 2 things I would start to look at. One is the elevation that you're operating in, and the other is the course profile, which is going to include the surface, the level of technicality, etc. So elevation for Moab is actually pretty reasonable. It's around, I think, 4,000, 4,300 feet. It's pretty minor in terms of needing to adjust your race plan or your training. When you get 5,000 feet is above, you start to see performance detriment and have to kind of account for that. But for this particular one, I think you're gonna be okay on elevation. Certainly everyone is different, just keep that in mind. If you're someone who has struggled with elevation in the past, or elevation is something that's going to be an issue in your race, especially while training at sea level, making sure you have a heavy dose of anaerobic capacity work and VO2 max work, not only early in training, but throughout your training. You're ultimately trying to make yourself as fit as humanly possible, and as well as handle a higher heart rate condition. So when you think about trail, ultra, and just trail marathons, the easy thing to think is endurance. But if elevation is going to be a concern, a lot of VO2 max, a lot of hill repeats, a lot of anaerobic capacity work during your training block to make sure to get ready for that. Course profile, absolutely the next thing you look at. In road racing, you might have a hilly race versus a flat race, but ultimately, it's not going to change a lot. You might talk about a minute or two here or there between, let's say, like a New York City marathon and a Chicago marathon. But really, it's you know the surface, you know what to expect. It's just little variations. That being said, in trail, it can be humongously different. You could have a nice flat dirt path, or you can literally be going up and over the side of a mountain. So you have to figure out what that kind of course profile looks like. If you're running a race with a lot of climbing, you have to train on hills. There's no way around it. So if you live in a flat area, you're gonna need to get on a treadmill, do extended hill repeats, mimic the major climbs of that race course. You know, if there's a 20, 30-minute climb, doing 2-minute hill repeats isn't gonna cut it. You need to get on there, you need to practice doing those long sustained efforts there. Once again, it's a treadmill, highway overpasses, parking garages, etc. These are all things I've heard people use to kind of mimic hills and flat conditions, but you absolutely have to do it. For races with lots of climbing, the kind of mountainous races, you also need to probably include what the ultra runners like to call power hiking sessions, which that is going to be a big part of that race. There are absolutely sections of trail races and mountain races that just aren't runnable. And so kind of, we'll say a little rule of thumb, if you're running at the same speed you could be walking or power hiking, you're burning a lot more energy by running than doing the power hike. So getting super efficient at the power hike, getting really fast at the power hike, and being able to come in and out of hiking to running with great proficiency is really important. And once again, you have to try to practice this. If you're living on flat conditions, the best way is most likely going to be a treadmill, spending long sessions going varied from flat to incline, running on flat, etc. But you've got to practice that variation on incline, when training at flat to be prepared for incline. Hopefully that helps. Well, friends, that is actually all for week 3. Thanks so much for joining me on our special edition Saturday athlete briefing. Have an amazing rest of week 2 and week 3, and hope to see you next week.